Welcome to WordPress Wednesday. I'm glad to have you with us, whether you're here live at 1 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time on Wednesdays or watching the replay. This is June 15th, 2016, and today we're going to do something a little different. For those of you who have been here before, you'll know all this stuff, but as usual, all comments, questions, issues, and critiques are appreciated. Feel free to post in the chat bar on the side, where topical discussion is also welcome. Post your links, promos, contact information, anything like that. I'm happy to share the space, so go ahead and promote yourself. Let us know what you're doing, what you've got to offer. For those who may not know me, my name is Steve, and I'm known by many online as the WordPress Wizard. I've been called the Coach's Coach and the Web Guy for Coaches. I'm the founder of wizardsplace.com, and you can contact me through that site or by email. I've posted my website and my email earlier in the post. It's scrolled off the screen if you want to scroll back up, and I'll post it again in a moment. I'm a published author, a WordPress instructor, and an online presence developer, and I earn my entire living right here on the web, mostly by helping others to do the same. I work with people just like you who need a little help moving their business forward, who need to expand their marketing reach, or who are serious about developing a successful online presence so they can work less and earn more. I'm experienced, approachable, and affordable, and the first half-hour consultation is always free. So why not contact me today to develop your journey from website to wealth? And let me just grab that email address and website and post it again for anybody who needs to get a hold of me. I know that everybody who's here today can probably already contact me one way or another, but those watching the replay or coming along into this a little bit later may find these helpful. And so that's my email address and my website. As you can see, I've got a large screen open there, and that is a screen share that Blab has the capability to do, and we're going to be using that in a moment, but I want to go through a couple of other things first. Just a reminder to everybody that I am here 3 days a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. So that's Motivational Monday. We're discussing the law of attraction, just started last Monday. You can catch the replay. Did a lot of overview stuff about the law of attraction, and we'll get into the nuts and bolts next Monday. WordPress Wednesday, where we are right now, we do all things WordPress, and I want to have a session available at the end for questions, or you can post questions in the sidebar. And then Focus Friday, and we focus on your business success, and we're in the process of running through a 10-week series on staying focused on your objectives. And it'll be week 3, I believe, next on Friday. If you're trying to find me online and connect with the Blabs, Blab has been doing all kinds of crazy things in the profiles, and you can't necessarily find the scheduled posts or the recent posts, the recent presentations. They just seem to have it wrong right now. It's broken. But if you search in the sidebar for my username here, my @WizardsPlace moniker, that will pick up and show first any of the presentations that I have scheduled, so you can quickly find where I'm at. If you're looking for today's or future ones, and I don't mean today, you're already here, but when it is a given day and you want to find the current presentation for that day, if you do that search, main blog page when you log in, or main Blab page when you log into Blab, right at the top center there's a little search box. Just put @WizardsPlace in there and hit enter, and it'll pop up the current ones. If you have a question today while we're underway, feel free to add it to the sidebar. I'll just post this usual thing that I do to show how the blue cue ball works. If you put a / and the letter Q, then a space, and then your question, it'll pop up with the cue ball, and I'll be able to see it. I think everybody here knows that already, so we're good to go. And I typically share a Facebook group in this session, almost always a WordPress group. And if you're considering monetizing a website, one of the best ways to do that is with a membership site. And there is a Facebook group called it's actually called WordPress Memberships. The URL has WP Memberships in it as the set group name. And you can find it at that link. Interesting group. It's a small group. It's growing. It's got some good people in it. And some discussion from time to time about WordPress membership plugins and services and how you can use them. You might find that of interest. And I want to share a book with you today because we're going to actually be talking about graphics in WordPress. And I came across this when I was looking around. This is a free Kindle book on Amazon. It is free today anyway. Let me see if I get that in there right. And it is on Photoshop, which is probably the most popular graphics program. I did look for a free book on GIMP, and I couldn't find one. GIMP is a open source free graphics program that is very much like Photoshop and does almost everything that Photoshop does. So if you have this book and you're using GIMP, you should find that much of what's covered in here will apply almost directly to GIMP, or with just a minor bit of adjustment, thinking about where things are in the menus and so on. But it is it's a free book. It looks pretty good. It's an absolute beginner's guide. So if you're already competent with Photoshop or using it regularly, you probably won't find it of use. Although there may be some good stuff in there that you've overlooked or forgotten about from when you got started. And there's a link to where you can get a Kindle app if you don't have an actual Kindle. Excellent opportunity to get another free book and carry on with it. And my usual self-promo advertisement here to kind of make these things work. For anybody who's interested in ongoing WordPress training that's a little more in-depth and a little more detailed than what we can do here in a blab, Wizards WP Classroom is my presentation that I do on a weekly basis. When you sign up for it, at that link, there is an upfront fee. It's a small fee, but it covers the immediate access. And then there's a monthly fee of $12 a month going forward for as long as you want to stay in the program. And you can learn WordPress. We cover a lot of material. When you start out, the upfront fee is because I don't drip content. We have a library, a growing library of initial material, and you get full access to that. You can sign up. It's worth far more than the upfront fee just to get access to that library. And if you don't like it, you can sign up, get access to all that stuff, go through it in the first 30 days and cancel, and you'll not have to pay the ongoing fee. Or you can stay for the sessions, and you'll find it extremely cheap for what you're getting. There are 85 plus, I think 87 as of this morning, professionally produced training videos on the site. There's special bonus and download materials scattered throughout the pages that are there, ebooks and other study guides, and we're adding to that all the time. We're adding to those professional videos all the time. There are weekly live streaming sessions, classroom sessions. It's a video live streaming classroom using Zoom. We interact with the students, answer questions, and do presentations. It includes question and answer and live demos, and replays of that are available. So, if you join now, you can go back and pick up the replays. Again, no dripped content. That's all there. And those classroom sessions are weekly, so you get a minimum of 4 a month for $12. That's pretty cheap attendance. There's additional recordings available. When I spot things that are of interest, I'll pop them in there. There's unlimited email support comes along with it, so you can email me as often as you need to for specific questions between the classes, and you can bring your questions to the classes. It's affordable. It's ongoing classes. You can subscribe for as long as you like and leave when you've got what you want. It's just that easy. So just share that with you. If you have people that are looking to learn WordPress, you might want to share with them. I'd certainly appreciate that. Anyway, let's get into some of the stuff that I want to start with. And one of the first things I want to do, I'm going to switch tabs in that other browser. And what I want to do here is open up a tab to a website that I just came across last week. Let me know if you can see that. Now, let me see here. Well, isn't that fun? Oh, there we go. Okay. And that is a website for Eleanor Strong. And I wanted to share that because I came across it last week. I got an email, just one of your usual promo emails from Eleanor. I'm not even sure if I was on her mailing list or if it was just a blank mailing that she did. I really don't recall. But when I checked into what the email had to say, I kind of liked it. And I went to look at her website just to see what was cooking. And so I wanted to share this today. And I'm going to share the URL for that as well. It's an easy enough URL. It is just eleanorstrong.com if you want to go and have a look at the site yourself. But the reason I'm sharing that is not so much to promote. Let me just type this in here. My copy and paste is giving me trouble again. I don't know why that is, but it seems to do it every week after I've shared a couple of things. eleanorstrong.com. That should be the link there. And I wanted to share this because we've talked in the past about simple website design and answering those 3 key questions for your website. Eben Pagan is a master marketer and one of the top marketing people in the world that deals with web marketing and big corporations. And he shares the idea that there are 3 specific questions that you need to answer with your website in the first 3 to 5 seconds when people land. Now, I've paraphrased those questions to what I think works and how I remember them. He may actually use them worded slightly differently, but they come down to exactly the same thing. And the first question is, who is it? When you and the key here is that you need it in the space above the fold. So that's my browser looking at the website right now. That's the way I see the website when I get there. Now, your browser may be opened up bigger on your screen. You may have a higher resolution screen than me, and you may see more of the page. But that's typically an above-the-fold look of a web page when you first get there. And that's what people first see, and that needs to answer these 3 questions. Who is it? Or what is it? If it's a business. But obviously, it's Eleanor Strong. What's it about? Well, it says right there, marketing for entrepreneurs starting from scratch. You think it gets the message across? And what do I get? Well, there's big text there that says how to create your first website and opt-in page in 1 hour. That's what you get. And if you look at the smaller text in the green, it says get your free 3-month plan to build your email list from zero. Old guy with glasses and small text on the screen, but it's bigger when you look at it in your browser, of course. But it answers those 3 questions, and it answers the last one doubly. It gives you a couple of choices of what you get. All right there going in. Now, it's not a fancy website. There's no, cool picture of her. There's no, background image or some fancy flowy thing there. All the things that designers will tell you have to have on your website aren't necessarily here. It's pretty straightforward and basic. And her whole site is like that. But it works. And I signed up for one of her programs. Her website caught my attention. I got drawn into it. I went through some stuff, looked at it, and hey, it's not so bad. So you don't have to have, this fancy, flowery website and all these fancy graphics and things that make the site look pretty. Pretty's okay, nothing wrong with it, but that's not what sells or what delivers. Here is an example of an absolutely basic website that does the job. And so, I encourage you not to hold back on getting your website out there, on getting it seen, on getting it, in place. A lot of people do that. They wait until everything's just perfect. Get your website out there and get it working for you. Get the basics in place, and you'll have it, in good form. So here's what I wanted to kind of dig in today. I want to talk about graphics. I just showed you a site that you don't need graphics, but a lot of people want graphics on their website. And certainly in terms of page content and blog post content especially, graphics help. There's good reasons for having graphics. Number one, the old adage that a picture speaks 1,000 words is certainly true. And so putting images into your blog post helps, especially if the images relate to your post and if they deliver some extra information. They're also good for SEO. Google indexes images, and if you use the alt attribute properly, you'll get some keyword juice going there for them, so they're good to use. How many images on a post? Well, as many as you need, but not too many. If you've got too many images, you take away from the content, and the people aren't going to read it. They're going to scan down and look at the images quickly and be gone. If you want to draw them into the content, make sure that you have good blocks of content that succinctly but thoroughly cover what you need, and separate those by images. Have an image that leads into the content or an image that follows the content, and get that block of 2 or 3 paragraphs going that they can read in a block. But it does help break up those long, boring paragraphs into small chunks. So, you want to use them accordingly. Some people say there should be an image showing in every screen, every, amount that fits on the screen. That's not necessary. I'm not sure that that's even a good idea. But certainly for every screen full of text, you want to have an image following. So, on the screen, if you've got 5 paragraphs or 3 paragraphs that show on the screen, then follow it with an image and then start the next group of paragraphs and enough text that will fill a screen and then another image. That's a pretty good method. But you don't always have to do that, of course. Some posts will have no images. The text does it all. And some posts will have maybe just one image. You should always have an image. It's a good idea, especially for SEO. And when I say image, that can also be a video. The spot where the video fits can deliver information. But using images, is a pretty easy thing. So we're going to talk a little bit about that today. And I want to share some things that I've got going here, and let's just talk about these as I change the screens going forward. And so here is a screen capture of the editor in your WordPress setup. This is just basic, and it has the editor, and I've put a title in it already, image demo page, and I've added just a tiny bit of text that says add image below. And so you're looking at the image editor here, and you can see a number of things that are pretty typical in the visual editor. This is pretty basic. Let's move on to the next screen. If I want to add that image, I'll just go back for a second, and you can see the add media button that's just above the main editor area and the various buttons for the editor. There's a add media button, and if you click on that add media button, it pops up the insert media screen, And I happen to have the image already uploaded that I wanted to use, but you could also upload an image either using the Upload Files tab or just dragging and dropping the image onto the media library, and it'll upload automatically. So in this case, I'm taking this Baker's Dozen image, and when you click on it, you get the blue box and the tick mark that says it's selected, and that panel over on the right opens up, and it shows you a variety of things about that image. I actually ran into a couple of people in the last little while that didn't realize that they could scroll down. If you look to the far right of that box, you see there's a scroll bar there with a little bit of white space at the bottom, and there's actually more to it if you scroll down. And so here's the other stuff that you see. In case you didn't see it, this is a screen capture with the scroll bar all the way down, and you can see the attachment display settings that are there. And some people just had no idea those were there. So I wanted to share that today. Pretty obvious, but only after you've discovered it. So it's one of those things that can get away from you. But there's a lot of good stuff in here that that you can refer to in terms of setting your image, and you can the title gets added in from the file name. So if we go back a screen and look at the upper section there, you can see the file name in there will automatically set the title that you get. So that's 00-bdseo.png. So what we would have in the title area, you can see the URL is the first box, and then the title, it would say 00-bdseo. It doesn't put the extension, but it puts that in. So if the file name is some kind of a coded name, as this one is, then you would want to redo the title and put in what you want to actually represent what it is. And so I've put in SEO for bloggers. You can add a caption, you should add alt text, and you can add a description. Now, when I use this later as I go through these screens, I'm actually going to delete the caption because I didn't want it for this use. But these things will stay. They will save, and then anytime you go back to the picture, they're there, and you can change them. They're only used when you actually insert the picture, and so you can update them or change them as you need. And in this case, it says keyword SEO bloggers. The word keyword is there. You don't have to put the word keyword to make these things a keyword. That's there because in the demo that I was doing with this, the word keyword was the keyword I was using in the demo so that it would stand out, and that's why that's in there. But it doesn't really need to be the word keyword. It's whatever your keyword is that you would want to put in there. And then down below in the section, you can align the item to the left, the right, the center, or no alignment. You can add a link, and there's 4 choices in there. You can have no link, you can have a link to the same page, you can have a custom link, and then there's another choice in there which I forget without saying it. And then the size, WordPress actually gives you 3 sizes for most images. Now, if the image is small, they may only give you 2. But for most images, you have the original size, or the full size as they call it. You have the a medium size that they create when you upload the file. And then you have a thumbnail, which is a square, and it's actually cropped from the file, and it's what you see here on the screen. Which doesn't always work, because if the image, as this one is, wide and wider than it is tall, a landscape image, the cropping of it to a thumbnail doesn't always look the best. The first image in those 3, the one to the left, isn't so bad because it's closer to a square, so when it crops out the piece of it and shrinks it, it looks all right. In this case, I'm going to actually insert the full-size image. And when you are working with the image, there's an area this is an area that I find that it almost seems like nobody knows about this. But if you go back up to the top there, do you see that little bit of blue text that says Edit Image? We're on the right-hand side here, right up the top. There's the Delete Permanently, and then there's right above it the Edit Image. And if you click on Edit Image, and be careful you don't click on Delete Permanently, but Edit Image opens up this editor. and you have the ability to actually edit the image yourself. The menu items up on the upper left, you have a crop item, and the first thing you need to do to make that work is actually click on the image and then drag your mouse with the left button held down so that you define an area, and then you can crop to that area. You can rotate to the left, you can rotate to the right. Sometimes you get a image out of your cell phone, and depending on which way you held your cell phone and the type of cell phone that you have, sometimes the image doesn't rotate properly. So you have people standing up, but the image is horizontal, and the people are standing, lying out left to right, and you need to rotate that image to make it stand up so the people are standing up. Or you might have something that's literally upside down, and you need to rotate it twice to get it around the right way. Those things happen, and here you can correct those. Plus you have the ability to flip and mirror the image, and then you have the undo and redo buttons that will become active once you've actually done something to the image. Over on the right column, you have a variety of things that you can work with as well. And so you can manually set aspect ratios and other things. And again, if we go to the section where I've scrolled down a little bit, you can see that you have the ability to apply your changes to all the images, all the sizes that WordPress has created for you automatically, or just to the thumbnail, or all sizes except the thumbnail. So you can keep the existing thumbnail and apply it to the other sizes, or you can apply it to all the images or just to the thumbnail. So that editor is right there in your WordPress, and a lot of people don't realize that. There is another editor, and this is the one I get asked about most often, is, how do I edit my image in my once I've posted it into my post. So here we are back in the post editor, and you can see that if you click on the image, you get this little box that surrounds it, and there's a menu at the top of it, centered at the top of the image. And if you take one of those little corner squares, you can drag that image out bigger or push it in smaller. Generally, it's not a good idea to drag an image out bigger if the image is already full size, because it'll pixelate and get kind of blurry and fuzzy. So you want to work with the biggest image that you can, and then make it smaller if you need to. And you are also better served if you crop the image to the size you want first before you upload it, or using the editor we just looked at. Now up above you have some items here that are important. You can align the image to the left. The first button there is to align to the left with the text wrapping around to the right. You can center the image with no text wrapping. You can align the image to the right with the text wrapping around to the left, or you can align it to the left. This basically has no alignment. It just sits to the left as it is sitting here right now, and no text wrapping around it. Those are the four choices that you can do from this editor, and it gives you quite a bit of flexibility after you've installed the image and you look at it and you say, oh, it's too big, I can drag it in a little bit smaller. Now I've got a lot of space, I want the text to wrap around it to the right, and you can pick the button and do so. You can also delete your image with the X, or you can use your delete key on your keyboard. Once you've highlighted the image to get this box, your keyboard will actively delete it. And then there's this pencil. That's the edit button. And when you click on that, it opens up a new screen, which gives you another set of editing tools that you can use. And here's what you'll see. And it shows you the image over on the right-hand side, so you can work with it. And you can edit the original or replace it with your edited version. You can change a variety of things. And the key here to look at is advanced options. That's an area that a lot of people miss. Even though they might use this editor, they, for some reason, haven't opened up the advanced option tab. And when you do, you'll find several more items that are here. And the one that most people are looking for is, how do I open my link in a new tab? If I've made the image into a link and I want it to open into a new tab, because if it's going off-site, I don't want to take people away from my website. I want to open in a new tab. They go, they look at that other website. When they're done, they close the tab, and boom, they're back on my website. So there's that little open link in new tab tick box down near the bottom. That's where it lives, is in that advanced options place under the editor. So, and you remember, you get to that editor by using the little pencil item after you've clicked on your image. So that is kind of a look at some of the editing functions that are built into WordPress for images that a lot of people kind of struggle with. They are struggling with a big editor program to pre-edit their images. They're taking their images to some website where they drop them in and get to edit them, and then download the finished file and then upload it to WordPress. And all of that's good, but it's a lot of work for basic editing, and certainly for alignment and other things like that. You have the capability right here in WordPress. So that's the extent of what I wanted to share today in this slideshow. It's not extremely visible here, but it does give you the idea of where the stuff is and how to get there online. And this is the kind of thing we share. In fact, this in more detail was covered in the Wizard's Place classroom this week on Tuesday. And so you have an area here where you can, because we use a different program for presentation that allows full screen sharing, we can get into much more detail on that. But I wanted to share that overview with you, because I think it's important. So now I'm going to unshare this screen, get out of that. And I want to say welcome to Corinder. I see you've joined, and Barb, glad to have you with us. Did I miss anybody that joined while I was in the presentation there, because I wasn't looking at the sidebar? I'm going to unlock the seat too. Certainly, if you have any questions, is this image editor the same in all themes? Yeah, actually, it's a core editor. It's part of the core WordPress, and it will be the same. I don't think that a theme can suppress this. I've never seen that. It might be possible, but when you're in the editor, in the visual editor or the text editor, you have access to these editors, and they are part of the core, because they're tied to the image in the image library. So I don't think that you can suppress it or lose it, but who knows? It could be possible for a theme to do that. I don't know why they'd want to do that. The only other possibility is a theme with a built-in page editor that captures the editor function and only shows you their page editor. Most of the good page editors that are there now, the Divi page editor, for example, it just adds a button to your regular editor that you can choose. It doesn't, suppress it. All of the plugin editors that I use or have looked at, the Poodle Press editor, the Beaver Builder, the separate Divi editor, and a couple of others, those all add a button to your editor to allow you to get into the page editor without suppressing the editor. So yeah, you should have this in every theme, or most every theme, and probably if you don't, it's time to look for a different theme. I've unlocked the seat if anybody wants to jump in. And yeah, that's you're right, Michael. This is the one built into WordPress. It's the core editor. And it is amazing, the stuff that is built into WordPress. And that's what I'm trying to do each week here, is get into some aspects of that. There's just so much to cover. And some things take a week or two. And some people have asked me to review something that I've covered because they didn't, quite understand it or quite get all of it. It's a lot to take in. WordPress is a very complex system. It's what makes WordPress so good. It's not just for beginners. I mean, people build big commercial websites. Go to the WordPress.org website and look at their featured websites, or they have a tab there for people that are using WordPress, and you'll see some pretty big names there. Harvard Law Review, for example, or CNN, Fox News, eBay. All of these big places and many, many others use WordPress because they recognize it as a quality piece of software. And it has all of the capabilities that they need, and it has the ability to extend it in just about any way at all. Now, for the average user, you're limited to the plugins and themes that you can acquire and drop in, unless you want to spend some money. But for the big companies, they can spend money to have add-ons, plugins, or add-on modules added to it. They can have pages coded within the, directly within the page content exactly the way they want. And so they can build just about anything on the the existing platform of WordPress. I have several commercial clients where I've built very elaborate websites right in the standard WordPress by adding page content that gives them flexibility and capability. You can write PHP code right into the page content. You need a plugin to have it actually be read and converted. But in doing that, you can code anything you want within the page itself, within that content area of the page. You can access databases and pull information in. You can do really just about anything you want, and quite simply. So anybody who has the ability to do a little bit of extra coding, you can expand that into pretty attractive and involved processes within your WordPress site. But for anybody who doesn't have that ability, you can do most things right out of the box with WordPress. It is amazing what you can do in terms of just using those core elements, and what can be done by adding plugins created by people who know what they're doing, who add extra features or draw upon features. Most plugins don't actually add features to WordPress. They add the ability for you to access those features. Most of the features in plugins are already functions within WordPress core. They're just being drawn upon and assembled in a way that makes it easy for you to do them. And so that's the nice thing about good plugins. And so you can take that basic WordPress site of yours and expand it by doing those things. But remember, it's about the function of the site. It's user experience, what we now tend to call UX, user experience, that has to do with people coming to your website. And that's number one. That's always first. Whatever you do on your website, think about how it's going to impact the user. So many people with WordPress, listen to friends, get into groups, and ask questions, and people say, oh, you have to add this to your website. Oh, this is the best thing for your website. These are the top 10 plugins you must have. And so they jump on those things and they add them to their website. Ask yourself, why? Simple question. Whenever you're going to add something to your website, why? Why am I adding that plugin? What does it do for me? What does it do to forward my business? What does it do to forward my objectives? What does it do to move me closer to my goals? Is it just pretty? Is it just cool? Is it just something my friend suggested? Or is there a purpose? Ask yourself why. And, look at those things and then rethink that purpose, rethink those objectives too, in light of your target market, your users. What's in it for them? Is this just about me, or is it about my target market? What is going to benefit them the most? And so you want to look for those kinds of things. That's how you build a good website. It doesn't have to be fancy, flowery, pretty, all those operative words. It can be like the one we looked at the beginning of this, Eleanor Strong's site, and it can be pretty plain and straightforward, but she is delivering great content to her target market, and she's reaching out to her target market, inviting them to her website, and then delivering what they're looking for. That's what your primary goal has to be with your website. Deliver to your target market, to your audience. Now, if you don't know what your target market is, and if you're just kind of flinging out there and hoping people are going to come, then you can put whatever you want on your website, and you'll kind of get a mishmash of stuff and maybe not get a whole lot of business from it. And if you're trying to reach out to everybody and deliver everything, then you're probably going to deliver nothing to everybody, because they're not going to come to find the focus of what's there. It's a very difficult balance, but WordPress allows you to do that, find that place of balance fairly easily. Yeah, and Cindy's just written something in the sidebar about what is best, and that's so true. You've nailed it there again. It's important to deliver those things that are necessary first. And then you can look at frills, but don't feel that you always have to change your website. Cindy, and I will reference this specifically because I think you and I disagree on something. You suggested in a conversation, I don't know if it was in Facebook or here in a blab, but you suggested that you don't need a personal website. Websites are for business. And while that may be true in many circumstances, there is a good reason to have a personal website or just another website. Because sometimes you want to play with things. Sometimes you want to try things. So having just another website set up, and it doesn't even have to be generally public, although you can actually get some good SEO value by having that site and linking that site out to your regular site. There's some things you can do. But if you create a site on a subdomain or a subfolder of your regular website, doesn't cost you any more. With WordPress, it's free for the website, and most hosting plans allow you to put multiple subdomains or subfolder websites in place. You don't even have to buy another domain. The website that we use for the Wizards Place Classroom is called class.wizardsplace.com. And you can go look that up if you want. And it's a website that is on a subdomain called class. It could be classroom, but I call it class. It's a little bit shorter. And just going to put this in here so you can click on it if you want. It'll open another tab. And that's a website that we're sort of building and using in the class to show different things. It's got an interesting theme on it that was part of a lesson on how to change themes. And we started out with the 2016 default theme, which is a pretty basic theme, and then did some things and then expanded to this theme, and we'll probably have another theme on it in a week or two. But it's an ability to work with on a subdomain. You can create a website like that on your own domain as a subdomain, and it doesn't have to be a personal website. It can just be a playroom, a testing site, and then you can try plugins on it to see what they do and see if it is something you want to put on your main site. If you make it a personal site and actually have it out there, I have a personal site. I started out with a combined site that was my personal stuff and my business stuff because, I'm mostly involved in my business. My business is me. And so putting that together was fine. But my personal interests drew away from the business and used up space and took focus off the business things. And my business things, although they're things I'm interested in, just weren't really compatible with the personal stuff I was sharing. So eventually I separated the websites out and created two of them, and that's where Wizards Place was born. And actually at the time I separated it out from Website to Wealth was the site that I went to with the stuff from the personal site, which was more about coaching than it was about web development. But I still have the personal site, and I continue to develop that, and I use that to share things that are not business related. And so if I find something that I really like and I want to share it, but it doesn't move my business forward, there's no purpose to putting it on Wizards Place, I can pop it onto my personal site. and share it and even tell people about it and show them. And so it does serve a purpose to have that site. It may not serve a purpose for you, and that's okay too. So that's what you want to think about. You want to think about that purpose. Does it suit your purpose, business, professional, or personal? And does it serve the target market? My target market on my personal site is family and friends and people that want to see what I'm doing. I write poetry. I'm interested in music and various other things that I do there. But it's separate from my business site, because my business is, focusing on what I do there. So there is a thing, but you really want to keep that in mind, that you find something that's cool and you really like it. It isn't necessarily something you want to put on your business site. And in fact, if you do, you are tending to turn your business site into a personal site. Your business site should focus on your business objectives, on your business plan, and you do have one of those, right? And you should then, head in that direction. And the things you do should always be for that purpose, and particularly focused on your target market. It is, it's difficult. Cindy's saying she thought it was, if you are in business, you need a business site. If you have a personal site in lieu of a business site, or in lieu of a personal site, then you will not get people to find your business. Yeah, and that's true. You certainly want to have, your business site be your business site. And of course, the SEO you're doing is on the keywords that relate to your business, whereas the SEO that's on your personal site, if you're doing any SEO at all, is more about your person. In my case, if somebody searches for Stephen B. Henry because that's how they know me, then they will find me, my personal site, my business sites, and so on, because I've optimized for my name on all of those sites. If they search for Wizard's Place, of course, they're going to find Wizard's Place. If they search for it in one word, if they search for it in 2 words, they're most likely to find it. They're most likely to find Wizards of Waverly Place. Boy, those guys are tough to beat. Although I am on page 2 and working my way on to page 1, but it's all about how you're focusing and what you're developing, and that really comes back to it again. WordPress, again, though, a really good choice for SEO. We've talked about that in the past. We'll talk some more about it in the future, because that's something you really want to be doing all the time on your site. If you're posting, you should be posting, okay? That's an important area, but you should be posting content, whether it's pages on your website or blog posts. Both are good. At least one of them is necessary. And you should be doing that. You should be posting new content a couple of times a week. And so that can include adding to a page, adding several new paragraphs to an existing page. It can include editing and updating a blog post. Better, of course, is new blog posts, and where appropriate, new pages. And so you add that new content in, and it gets indexed, and you get found for those kind of things. And if you do it right, you'll be indexed so that you'll show up in the first couple of pages in Google. For example, when I decided to try to optimize my Wizard's Place site for Wizard's Place as 2 words, because I was being told by people that they were looking for me, they were searching for Wizard's Place, and they weren't finding me. And I knew that originally from my own search tests, that Wizards of Waverly Place dominated the top several pages of the SERPs, and it's why I changed my branding from Wizard's Place being 2 words to that single Wizard's Place 1-word brand on the site. And I've promoted it that way and encouraged people to use that, because I show up in the #1 spot for that. But I made a decision just a little while ago to go back and take on Wizards of Waverly Place and get my site indexed onto the first page for that term, because people use it. I have to look at what my user needs are and what my users are actually doing what they're looking for to find me, and I have to, deal with that. And you do too on your websites. So when I made that choice and I made some changes, some very quick changes, I immediately got on to page 2. Within a few hours getting indexed, I got onto page 2, and it only took a few hours because I'm adding new content regularly, so Google is checking my site out many, many times a day. And when they get new information, they grab it, and it goes into their system for indexing, and it gets indexed pretty quickly, usually within a few hours. So, the same day or the next day, I forget now, but very, very close on, when I made some changes to start that process, I was on page 2. At the bottom, spot 9 on page 2. But that's where I started out against a massive competitor. And so, I did the right things, and they weren't hard, and they were all on-site things that I did. I didn't have to go and get a bunch of links and a whole bunch of other things. Well, since then, I have been doing the more traditional stuff. And hello, Eileen, glad to see you. And glad you got back. I was going to say hello to you, and then you disappeared. And now I'm going to say hello and interrupt myself because I didn't want to miss you this time. Hi, glad to have you with us. But anyway, so just some basic things I could do on site got me right away onto page 2. And then I started moving up the page by doing a variety of other things. And I should now be, if you search for Wizard's Place, 2 words, you should find me somewhere near the top of page 2. I hope you do anyway. And the stuff seems to be working. But I have a lot more work to do. All of this can be done fairly easily. You can do all of those things. So if you're not being found, you need to look at the foundations of what you're doing on your website and why you're not being found. And here's the basic things that have to do with not being found. Number 1, you're not an authority. Now, you may be an authority in what you do, but speaking from Google's perspective, you number 5, page 2 for Wizard's Place. Thanks, Michael. That's cool. I'm in there somewhere. That's where it's working. So I got a ways to go yet, but I should be on page 1 by next month. But anyway, in Google's eyes, if you're not an expert, you're not an authority, then you're not getting onto page 1 as easy. It takes that reference from Google. And the best way that you can become an authority is to write about what you do, about what you offer, about your niche market. If you write regularly blog posts and share those on your website will be authoritative, and you will be recognized by Google over time as an authority. It's that simple. That's how you become an expert. Write. And you need to do it often enough to satisfy Google that you're sincere about what you're writing about sharing with people, that you've done your homework, that you have more to share. You're not just a one-hit wonder. And so you want to write 2 or 3 times a week. Now, I know that's a lot and you're busy and it's tough to do, but if you do that, you'll become an expert. So, and it won't hurt you any to be doing the research to find out what to write about in order to do that. So all of those things are helpful. So that's the key to becoming an expert. But the second thing for SEO, and it blows me away how many people don't know this, and it is so obvious. It's just absolutely crazy. If you're wanting to be indexed for a certain term, if you want people to search for Mickey Mouse and find your page, you know what? You need to have the word Mickey Mouse on the page. Now, if you really want it to be found, you need to have it in several places on the page, and there's some technical structure you can do, and I'll do a session on that here. I'm actually doing a session next week for someone about this, and there are some very simple things that you can do. But if you if you don't put the word, if the word is not on the page, you're not going to rank for it. At least not on page 1. If the page talks all about anthropomorphic mice or things like that, but you don't actually have Mickey Mouse you don't have the word Mickey, you don't have the word mouse, it's not going to be found. And somehow a lot of people don't understand that, and they wonder why. They go and they search for a word that they think is what people are searching for. They search for a phrase that they think it's what people are searching for, and they're not being found. So you need to put those words and phrases on the page. And you can be indexed for more than one keyword on a page. And you can actually use Yoast SEO, which is one of the better plugins for checking your own SEO work. You can use that to check a page for more than one keyword. And I've shared that in the past too. And it's, it is really important that you recognize that a page, while you have a focus keyword for that page, you can actually have more than one focus keyword, but you need one. You can have more than one. But even if you only have one focus keyword, and that's what you do all the optimization for, every other keyword on that page is going to be indexed. So if you have a page about Disney and you're getting it optimized for Mickey Mouse, but on it you mention Minnie Mouse and you mention Goofy and you mention Donald Duck, those keywords will be indexed, and that page will be indexed for those keywords, but it may not be optimized enough to end up in the top few pages. It may be down on page 200, but it will still be indexed. And if you work it properly, you can have several different keyword phrases return the same page in the top of the search results. So you can be on page 1, spot 1 for a focus keyword. You can be on page 1, spot 3 for another focus keyword. You can be on page 1, spot 9 for another keyword that happens to be on that page if you do it right. So it is important. Eileen asked a question here that I missed. Do you do something different for ranking in Bing than what is done to rank in Google? Yes, a little. And that is actually important. The thing I always talk about Google, because Google represents something like 86% of all search, at least in North America, all search. And it's up there. It's still the lion's share around the world. There are other big search engines in some of the other places in the world, but Google is still number one around the world, and it is like 86% of all search in North America. And if you optimize for Google, you are optimizing for most search engines. Google, some of the things that you do for Google aren't necessary for other search engines. They don't check them. They don't care about them. So if you do them for Google, they help you with Google, but they don't hurt you with other search engines. And all of the stuff that other search engines want generally is what Google wants too. So there's not a lot of difference. Put your focus on Google, figure out how Google works, do that, and the rest will generally fall into place. But for Bing, Yahoo, a couple of the other ones, you will find that they react differently to different things. And so Google is, for example, when it comes to Google versus Bing, Google is more about the user experience, and they weight your page much more in those factors, where Bing is more about the technical SEO requirements. Bing is a little bit behind the curve. It's sort of what Google was 2 years ago. And so the old SEO stuff works for Bing. You still do that on your site anyway for Google, but to get up in Google, you can get up in Bing a lot easier than you can in Google. And to get up in Google, you've got to be doing that user experience stuff, which even comes down to as simple as organizing your page into paragraphs, properly formatted paragraphs, and preferably spaced. Google looks at these things. Their bots are really, really sophisticated. They can actually read your content and give it a reading level. And so you want to be sure that your reading level is easy enough for the nature of the content. If the market you're after is rocket scientists, then be techie. But if it's the average person out there in a niche, then you want to write for the average person, and that's a grade 6 to a grade 8 level, about a 65 plus on the Flesch reading score. So you really want to consider those kinds of things more for Google than for Bing. I'm not sure that Bing even cares about the reading level. But if you do everything right for Google, you'll be good for Bing and most of the other search engines. There are a few niche market search engines where they're looking for specific things in your posts. They need to be relevant to certain content or context. In that case, you've got to treat them differently. But still, you can optimize those posts for Google. Bobby, glad to see you. Good that you made it. Did that answer your question, Eileen? Was that suitable there? I just find that for me, I've spent a lot of time on SEO, and I do okay in all of the other search engines if I do well in Google, and that's it saves me trying to figure out the fine points. When I work on client sites, I have to get into that fine point stuff, but it certainly is just generally easier to focus on Google and teach Google. You get the ideas and the principles, and then if you need to find out the technical stuff for something else, if you're not, if you're coming up on page 1 in Google for a couple of key phrases that are right for your business, and when you search those phrases in Bing, you're not even in the first 10 pages, then there's something wrong, and you want to look into the details of it then. But generally, I think you might find yourself, in spot 3 for Google and spot 5 for Bing, or spot 3 for Google and spot 1 for Bing for the same phrases if you've done everything right. If you're on the first page of Google, you're almost certainly on the first page of Bing. That's kind of the nutshell of it. Well, we're past the hour, so I'm going to wrap up the recording. I want to say thank you to everybody that came along today. Can I just have a show from the people that were here during the slideshow session? Did that work? Could you see enough of that to make it relevant? I can see that those screen captures were a little light because the screens in WordPress are a little light. I probably could have optimized those a little bit to get the darkness of the lines a little better. But normally when I make slides myself, I use a larger font and more definitive graphics. But did the structure of using those slides, did we change from slide to slide as I changed them, and everything seemed to work okay? Any one person who saw it want to say yes or no, whichever it was. Some were light, but the main part was okay. Even with with your eyesight issues, it was fine. Well, hey, welcome. I know what that's all about. So good stuff. Okay, because I just wanted to know if the structure that I was using, because it was a really simple thing. All I was doing was I opened up the Firefox browser. You can do this with Chrome, but when you put a raw graphic into a Chrome page, it aligns to the left, and I wanted them to align to the center. I don't even know if there is a Chrome setting to change that, but in Firefox, they automatically align center. And all I did was open up a page in, open up a window or a tab in Firefox, and then I just dragged and dropped the images in order, starting with the first one, into the browser, and they display. And then when I drop another one, it displays. And there were 8 of them. I dropped all 8 in, but they actually open up as separate pages with the back button. You can go back to the first one, and then you can step forward through them. So anybody who's doing presentations on Blab and needs a slideshow that's really easy to use, have Firefox open, have Chrome open for your Blab screen like I'm using now. Firefox, set up your images ahead of time, create your slides. And by the way, I use 960 by 600 for my standard slide size. These varied a little bit because some of the screen captures for the pop-ups were a little smaller, and I didn't take the time to lay them into full-size slides. I just used them raw. But 960 by 600 is the size that I've used before. And then you just stack them into your browser, go back to the first one. Use your back button one page at a time. You can't just jump back or you'll lose the others. But if you step back to the first one and then go through your slide presentation by stepping forward with your forward button, you'll be able to present that. And then when you share the screen, share your other browser as the shared browser so you can still have your own Blab page open while you're using the tab in the browser that you're using. Very, very simple. I've used it in Zoom and other places where I've done slideshows. I'm going to be trying it this week in a Facebook Live presentation, and we'll see how that goes. I don't have a cell phone, by the way. I don't use a cell phone, so I'm looking at using Facebook Live from the desktop, and that's a little tricky, but I'm having fun with it, and I should have it all put together by the end of this week. And we'll look for me on Facebook, and we'll see how that turns out as well. So thanks, guys. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate it. For those who were here to watch and stayed through the whole thing and put up with me, you're greatly appreciated. And the people watching this on replay, hope you find something of value. I've got a lot of replays stacking up there that you can dig back through if you want. Remember, we're here Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 1 p.m. Eastern Time. Motivational Monday. We're into a long session now. Just started it last Monday, but if day before yesterday. But if you want to grab the replay, you can, and maybe want to jump in next Monday and start going forward with us. We're talking in detail over several weeks about the law of attraction and how you can make it work for you. And WordPress Wednesday here, we're always here on Wednesdays talking about WordPress. And then Focus Friday, we focus on your business success. And we're going into week 3, I believe, of on taking action, which is a 10-week program we're doing on staying focused on your objectives. So please join us again. Love to see you. And yeah, happy hump day, that's for sure. And that's why we do WordPress now. We get over the hump. Good stuff. Talk to everybody again. I'm going to stop the recording, but I will be here for a few moments.